Good evening, friends. I'm your host, Willow Scholar. Welcome to Cryptid Crunch. We haven't talked in a while. I missed you. And I missed my co-host. And I missed my special guest. So you guys came at a great night. So let's get started. And of course, with the way everything is, I'm having technical issues on some of my pages. I will figure that out later. I apologize. But for now, I need to introduce my co-host.
Hello.
Hi. I see. Oh, your cat's gonna join us again.
Of course. Happy October. It's
Yay!
spooky. It's officially spooky season. I mean, I start it. I keep it going all year round. But for those of you who need an official start date, happy official October 1st.
I just celebrated my 41st birthday the other day. So
yes!
It seems like everything's going okay so far. My body decided to kind of try to fall apart on me the other day at work, but I think I'm okay now, so knock on wood.
If you fall apart at Spirit, do you become part of the decor? A prop?
Probably. But I'm not very spooky part of the decor at PetSmart. So if I put my back out, it's probably going to be, just station me at the till and I'll just kind of move like a robot for the rest of the night.
You might end up like a Catwoman seeing the cats just come into like trying to feast on you.
Well, we have a special guest for the show. Kyle.
Yeah.
You guys all know him from the chat.
I got another guest too here.
Oh, Charcoal! Oh, not Charcoal. Kelvin.
Yeah. Oh, now he's gone. Okay.
Didn't want his close up apparently. But hey, how's your guys' weekend going?
Pretty good so far. Yeah.
Everything has been pretty chill. Can't complain.
So yeah, I went out for lunch with a couple of my friends today. Had Chinese food. On my way home, I had to make a pit stop and called 911 because there was a building on fire.
Oh my gosh!
Just all I saw was black smoke coming from an alcove and from one of the University of Winnipeg's buildings that they have.
Whoa.
And so yeah, I asked my friend to go around so that I can call 911. Sure enough, I get there, make the call, and people started coming out of the building and just standing right in front of the fire. I'm just like,
okay.
I know that there's signage all over their building stating where to go in case of fire. Clearly, they don't know or haven't been told. So I had to wave them down and tell them to go to the parking lot across the street. But when I stood around there, it actually kind of smelled like kerosene. And it looked like there was some kind of liquid on the steps where the fire was. So I don't know. Some junkie decided to have fun with the lighter. I don't know. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I saved a building from going up in flames today.
Yay!
My hero work is done.
Hell yeah! I feel like no matter how much procedure people are given. Whenever chaos ensues, people will panic no matter what.
Yeah. Either that or they downplay it, it's okay. It'll be all right.
So yeah, we've had issues with firebugs around our city. So hopefully this wasn't one of those situations where they were trying purposely to make this go up in flames or whatever. I'm just thinking it was just someone lighting garbage on fire or something. So anyway, let's get to the point of our show.
Okay.
The lost colony of Roanoke. My Canadian brain wants to pronounce it Roanoke. Johnny had to correct me on that a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, so the lost colony of Roanoke.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to start off? Like, what do you guys know about this story?
We were talking before, this was actually the second Roanoke colony. They had come before and dropped off a bunch of soldiers, and that didn't work out so well. And so within a couple of years, they were either gone or moved to wherever the colonists came on this particular expedition. And it may not have been the same island. So there's some controversy over where exactly the colony even was. And so it's a rather confusing history, even though it is part of history. They weren't really good at map making in those days.
I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
I am so sorry. I completely went ahead of myself. Carl, please introduce yourself to those who are listening and in the chat, although everybody in the chat knows who you are.
Okay, I'm a retired counselor and IT professional, and right now doing writing full time, yeah, and watching lots of YouTube and enjoying it. In fact, last week I actually saw another, because my YouTube feed is so weird, I actually saw another thing about Roanoke the other day and learned a few new things. So that I volunteered to come on.
Oh, excellent. So Kale, what do you where did the rabbit hole lead you down this whole path?
So I think I learned about Roanoke like way back in like 3rd grade history. And it was like just a pip through in like, our storybook or whatever. And it was always kind of one of those things that piqued my interest because I was like, how do like, over 100 people just disappear without a trace? And throughout history, it's just one of those things that I kind of followed. And it was one of the things that piqued my interest, especially when American Horror Story picked it up. So I did a lot of research for it, especially with the upcoming podcast. So I definitely rewatched American Horror Story, my Roanoke nightmare, and I cross-referenced it with Wikipedia and all of the historical references, and I was like, okay, what did they change? What was different? Everything like that. And so it was kind of interesting to see. So yeah. I don't know where you want to start with, like, where we're going off with the path, what you have set out. But I mean, I can start if you want, but like,
by all means, because me being Canadian, I have no association with the story whatsoever. So please enlighten me.
Yeah, so from what I gather, the next colony that came after the like kind of failed soldiers, because like at first, like the natives were like, hey, who are these like, foreigners? We don't want them on our territory. Everything was like kill, 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 get these foreigners off our land. And that was like what it was immediately to get everybody off of it. So like Carl's right, immediately it was a failed settlement at the start.
Mm-hmm.
So June of 1587, John White, he's the captain of this settlement. He comes from England, and he has 117 settlers, and he comes and he's going to settle them on the coast of North Carolina, and he is going to create this settlement of Roanoke. And they settle there, and immediately it's like 3 months in, and they're like running out of supplies, 117 people, and they're like, hey, John, this isn't going to fly. Like, we can't make it. Like, they're already having like native attacks immediately. Like, the soldiers were happening. Like, you know, they're like, again, we don't want you on our land. Like, they're not even as threatening as the soldiers. They don't have like armor. You know, this is women and children and like craftsmen and like carpenters and things like that. People that are coming out here to build homes, businesses, and create like a settlement. And the natives are still like, at first, like, hey, we don't want anything to do with them. At first they're like, you know, we don't want them on our land. So it's 3 months in, and they're already running out of supplies because the natives have come and raided their villages and settlements and things like that. So already John is going to go back to England and get them more supplies, because he's like, all right, we didn't do it good enough. We didn't pack enough food from the old motherland. So he goes back. But what's going on back in England at this time is the Spanish War. So John, since he's an old captain boy and he's like top notch, he gets caught up with the queen, and he's like, hey, you need to like fight for me and do all my bidding and all this stuff like that. And he's caught up for 3 years. 3 years. So it's not till 1590 that he comes back. And all of his settlers are gone. They're vanished. They're disappeared. Everything's missing. His wife, Thomason, his daughter, okay. This is where I got messed up, because I talked to you about this, right, Willow?
Yeah.
He had 2 children, Thomas Jr., who died very young, and then, oh, shoot.
I want to say Elizabeth, but that may not be right.
Yes, because Virginia was his granddaughter, and Virginia Dare was the first colonist to be born in the New World. And that's why I always get confused, because in Roanoke, Priscilla doesn't exist. And she's the one that they say is like the bastard child or whatever, you know? But they do talk about Thomason, and Thomason was actually his wife. Thomason, I forget, but then it turns into Thomason White, Thomason Cooper or Colin or something like that. But yeah, so he comes back and they're all gone, and nothing is in sight except the word Croatoan carved into this tree. So, right, Crow. And then Croatoan is carved somewhere along the coast as well.
Yeah.
And what baffles everybody is that they don't know where all of these people went. There's no mass burial grounds, no bones, no anything like that. The only thing that's ever been found in like concrete history in 2020 were some pottery shards of European descent that they think the probable cause is that the inhabitants would have been slowly integrated into the local tribes. But it's not concrete. I don't know. If you're a controversialist like me, like, I don't know. It's like with the attacks and everything like that, it's just like 117 people. Like, how do you just, I don't know. So there are so many supernatural theories that like they took a boat to another island. Supernatural presences took hold. So yeah, it's just one that's always baffled me because there's no concrete proof except these pieces that we try to piece together, you know?
Mhm.
I love the comments already on this.
Bermuda
Jay
Triangle.
Mattingly says Roanoke is like America's Atlantis or Bermuda Triangle.
Mhm.
He mentions they evolved into Bigfoots.
It's hard to tell because, as Kale said, there were raids on their encampment, and did the pottery get stolen and then taken back to where it was found, or did they move with their pottery? So it even more confusing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or did they trade the pottery for something else? Food maybe that they needed so badly for 3 years. Yeah, it was bad.
Right.
And I'm looking at the map, and I know, Carl, you mentioned that the maps are kind of wonky because there isn't proper maps made of their travels.
Right.
So from what I gathered is, just they try to go to a different island, which, Croatoan Island, what it became Hatra's Island.
Mm-hmm.
But just looking at, the distance.
What is that? 50
Um,
kilometers?
yeah. Oh, sorry.
So
Because I'm
that's-
Canadian,
miles.
it's going to be
about 40 miles. Yeah.
yeah, around 40 miles from one island, from Roanoke to Hatra's Island.
Mm.
And
That's assuming they were on the island that we now call Roanoke, which
but
we don't really know for sure which island they were actually on.
yeah, or they could have gone a little bit easier route where,
Yeah.
the next
Take 64 over.
island over.
They could take 64 over to 12 and they'd be fine.
Probably would have been whichever one was easier, if they had a good navigator.
Yeah.
That
makes
because
a lot
I mean,
of
with children,
mm-hmm.
You don't want to travel a long distance with a child, right? And
especially a canoe or something. I mean, because
right.
they would have been transported. I guess they were friends with the Croatoan people. Those were their friends, and part of we're used to now. Oh well, I can't find my friend. I'll call him on the cell phone and figure out. Back in the day, they would have to have long-term plans. If anything happens, you guys go with the Croatoans.
Yeah.
And go to their island. So that was part of the thing. And I think White was going to go down there, and then there were storms and they lost their anchor. And instead of just sheltering somewhere on one of the islands, they said, oh, well, we better go back to England.
But what I'm wondering is there's a lot of water in that area. Mm-hmm. Did anybody ever try to look in the ocean to find out if there was any boats from that time period?
Well, and that was one theory that Carl brings up, since they were on good terms with the neighboring Croatoan tribe, that's why the word Croatoan would be carved into the tree, is that if they needed harboring, because he took so long to get supplies, 3 years. Yeah. I mean, they settled in for 3 months and then he was gone. He went back to England. He got caught up with the Spanish War. They weren't expecting him to get gone that long. They needed somewhere to go. So that's one theory, is that they did go to the neighboring Croatoan tribe that they were on good terms with, and that they left that as like a symbol to John White when they came back, that like, hey, this is where we kind of disappeared to. This is the only symbol we had to leave to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But didn't he try? Wasn't there something where he tried to go to a neighboring island, but the storms were so bad, and he tried it like twice, but the storms were so bad that he ended up going back because
Yeah,
there was no
back
way, no escape.
back to England, which is a much longer trip. I mean, yeah, I think he wasn't maybe in charge of that particular boat. Another captain overruled him and said, no, we're going back to England. It's just, no, we give up. They didn't have an anchor, I guess. They lost their anchor. So they couldn't anchor beside any of the islands to go ashore. So it's like, what do you do? And I don't think it was many years before anybody else went looking for them.
Yeah. So it seems like a weird situation where it's like, oh, my family's lost. Let's go back home and start a new one.
Yes. It was an odd thing because I guess there was a charter given by the British royalty to a gentleman, and he couldn't do the colonization. He died, and so the charter was broken up between his son and his half-son, who was Sir Walter Raleigh. Raleigh was the one behind this, and he only had so many years to colonize, or else he was going to lose his part of the charter.
Yeah.
And so his half-brother was working against him in England as well to make sure that his colony did not survive. So there's some intrigue going on here behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite kind of pop culture references when Stephen King peaked this in A Perfect Storm, the disappearance of the colony. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I didn't know that so many supernatural people were interested in this kind of story and were like, oh, it was a big deal throughout history or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that I kind of took a peek interest in it.
Well, yeah, if you look at some of the theories, some people say it was disease, but if there was disease, there would have been skeletons, and burials, as Cale said. If it had been some sort of war with the Native Americans, they probably would have been taken away with them.
Yeah.
But then again, we don't have any evidence of that.
Apparently there was stuff these little
the Dare Stones.
Yeah.
Call them the Dare Stones, yeah.
But wasn't that found out to be a hoax? Or it's still inconclusive?
They're still inconclusive on the first one they found, but there were several found, and the others all have been proven hoaxes. The first one they're just not sure about. And I think you're looking at the first one there.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia went hence into heaven and has a date there. So, yeah.
And then, the pieces of the pottery there. I have a video. I have a picture up that says where each piece kind of comes from: French brown stoneware, yellow glazed Surrey, Hampshire borderware, Martin Camp Type 3, E6 fine redware, London redware. So yeah.
Now, interesting you bring up the stones, because I don't know if you know much about Ryan Murphy, but that's what he based his characters off of in My Roanoke Nightmare. But he didn't want to do I don't know if you know this, but he did an interview where he said that he didn't feel comfortable doing it off of real history. So that's why he did Priscilla. But in the story, that's what they do as a supernatural twist. They do that she is sacrificed to gain powers for Thomason to get gatherings and bounties and meat and stuff for the tribe and things like that. So it's a very interesting take. If you haven't seen it, it's one of my favorite seasons of American Horror Story, because they stage it as if it's a TV show, like you're watching a TV show.
Reality
show. There's a set of characters that are the main cast, and then there's a set of characters that are the reproduction cast. It's really, really great.
Oh, okay. Sounds
And
good.
quite honestly, I was trying to was trying to watch that today before my husband came home, and I'm like, there's so many good actors in here.
I know. Cuba Gooding Jr. Who else is in there? Of course, all of the American Horror Story regulars. Evan Peters, Emma Stone, everybody. So, but yeah.
That was kind of like a surprise thing, and so I'm gonna definitely have to go back and watch that. I just was trying to look at like historical events more so, try to see what what I can piece together.
Right.
But my theory is if they tried to go to a different island, maybe their boat capsized and they got lost in the ocean. So
Yeah. They have found some rifle parts on another island. They're not sure how those came about. If they were, you know, if that was maybe like you were saying, maybe they went to the next island over and then we're going to go south. Maybe there's more information there that could be found. Maybe they didn't make it all the way to Croton. I mean, that's always a possibility too. That might have been their plan, but they might have had to fight their way there, which is probably not a good plan. But
yeah.
but just look, I love Google Maps for this reason, so that I can have like a visual of where they possibly travel to. But this one here for Jamestown, it just doesn't make sense to my brain.
No.
That's a long way to travel with limited supplies, and yeah.
Well, yeah, especially those little canoes that they would have had at the time. I mean, because they would have had to hitch rides and maybe one or two at a time going in a canoe with the Native Americans, or maybe, they said, here, have our canoes. But that's a long way.
Yeah.
I think that best case scenario, a few here or there thought, let's split off from the group, tried to make it on their own, went out in the woods. You might find some bodies here or there.
Yeah.
But the mass tried to go on a boat somewhere because they weren't good with the neighboring tribes. And you're never going to find them in the water because, let alone, there's 90,000 like undiscovered creatures in the water alone. You're not going to, dig the Virginia coast, North Carolina coast for 117 bodies from 1584. So they're just lost to the ocean.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of wrecks that we know about in like pirate times that are down there that they still haven't found. And that's the size of a frigate or something like that. I mean, that's a big ship to go down and not be found. And they've got metal detectors and everything. They're trying to find these ships, and so yeah, finding a canoe or two is going to be nearly.
Yeah. And especially if it's around that time, wood wasn't treated properly, so wood rot definitely wouldn't. It wouldn't stay intact for very long.
No.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about on the Titanic when they're like, only the women and children, only the women and children. And then I'm just thinking of the only thing I have to compare those times to is Pocahontas when they make the canoes just around the river bend. And I'm like, okay, so only the women and children just around the river bend. How many could fit in there from 117 settlers? Let's do the math and the distribution here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to calculate it in my head. How many canoes? How many trees?
Oh, yeah.
Because think about it. John White took the ship, right? So you have to think about you're either taking a lot of canoes or building one large raft or watercraft or something to carry 117 people or however many people stayed behind, let's say 90 people that stayed with the mass, and you're going to get them where? What are you going to build?
Yeah.
And wasn't their leader kind of a jerk too? Like the natives didn't like him.
I know that happened with the first one. Governor Lane was his name. Yeah, he didn't. He was the first one to give them a bad taste. So yeah, that was pretty bad. And he left. He didn't stick around. He left his soldiers and took off, which is brave on him. But yeah. They had been fighting Spain on and off for several years at that point. And, when you think about jokes that were made in the 50s and 60s about Japanese found on the island that still thought World War II was going on, that's in modern times when we had radios, So think about these people sailing around in ships, and the Spanish had colonies in Florida and such. Even if they weren't having a hot war, they were in a cold war with England at this time. And so, the idea that there were colonists up to the north was not a good idea to them. And they may have gone up and done something to those colonists or taken them away.
Yeah.
So they may have said, come on down to Florida and whatever, or they may have just, dumped them in the ocean after they shot them. They may have thought, oh, we're still fighting the last war. We don't even know there's a new war. We're still fighting the last one because, word didn't get there very often. It would take weeks for a ship to get across. So,
yeah. And I mean, in a situation like that, 115 people, disease probably ran rampant. Who knows if the baby even survived after 3 years old. Yeah.
They're still trying to do genetic studies of people living on the islands of the Grand Banks to see if they may still have some of that DNA. But that's a long shot.
Yeah, because
really,
that's I mean, to date, you have nothing to date the DNA with.
Well, you have to find descendants of John White that were living in England.
Oh, yeah.
And still alive. Maybe, if that line, continued, and then you compare that against people living there, but that's a tough thing to do and not a lot of money to do it with. So those researchers have been working on this for years and haven't gotten too far.
We're still like Ancestry and all these other DNA websites. I don't know how accurate that those DNA tests are. So I don't know. I don't know if that would be trustworthy to use for a case like this.
They've been using it to solve crimes, actually. I think they found some DNA that the Golden State Killer had left, and they couldn't find it anywhere in police databases, but they matched it up with someone on Ancestry or one of the other competing services, and they found out that the Golden State Killer's sister had put in DNA. So they said, we know. Oh, wow. Yeah, and they found the guy through that.
That's crazy.
So it's amazing what you can do. And they've been searching down my favorite topic, the Somerton man, the guy in Australia who was found dead. They've been tracking down his family. So it's amazing what they can do.
I do follow a lot of like the Egyptian. They'll dig up a body from ancient Egyptian times, and they'll show you what they look like. And yeah, and I think I saw something about them trying to track down DNA as well from that. That's interesting. I'm still a little iffy on, the whole digging up the sarcophaguses, and, it's It's a grave. People leave them alone.
Yeah. When does it become something of science, and when is it something of respect? And
Yeah.
that's the thing, you have to draw the line somewhere. And
Because I don't know, we have a thing where it's like it's kind of against the law to dig up dead bodies here. Why is it okay to do it there?
it's somebody else's relatives, so it makes it easier, I guess. Our conscience is, and they've stopped doing a lot of that without at least the government permissions. So that is at least a little better.
Well, there's a recent case where where someone had dug up bodies in Peru, and I think the Peru government is actually after these people to return the bodies.
Yes. Yeah, don't take them out of the country. That's not ever good. They can't do science in Peru if that's what they're there for. If they're there just to rob graves and sell the pieces, that's definitely illegal in most countries.
Yeah. Dave, with them being unaccounted for a 3-year period, it could have been a hurricane that flooded them out and swept them to sea. That's a very good point.
Could very well.
Honestly.
Yeah. And almost like a tsunami.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Weather is very temperamental, and we call it the Maritimes. So yeah, it's lots of hurricanes.
With the carvings, we pretty much got the idea that they were planning to go to Croton. That was their plan. Now, the one that wasn't finished being carved, I mean, why not? They were able to carve the word Croton in total on one thing, but they were not able to finish that.
See, that's an interesting point. Like one story says that one was carved in just a post at the fort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But obviously, if it was a tree, it's long gone.
Yeah.
There's no proof of that being anywhere.
Right.
But here's the thing. What if it wasn't a message of where we're going? What if it was a warning that they were the ones that were attacking? What if something happened that they turned in bad favor of the tribe? And they saw that their leader wasn't there, and they were vulnerable, and they came and attacked them while they were gone.
I will say this: my husband gets really mad at me because when I send him messages, because sometimes I can be very vague, and he'll call me. What does your message mean? So
yeah. If you can get that with a text message, think about you're carving something into a tree.
History hasn't changed, people. Women are still cryptid.
I'll say nothing on that one.
Can I take you out tonight? Meet me at Croatoan. I carved it into the tree.
Well, they would have to set up codes of some sort with each other.
Right.
I would hope so.
Well, even when I was a young person, when I was a teenager, if our parents dropped us off somewhere and then they were going to come back and get us when whatever event was over, we would have to find a payphone and call home. And that was a long distance call. So what we would do is we'd ring twice and then hang up. And that signal, come pick me up, the event's over, So, they had to be inventive back then to get their message across. Is it a thing of they were attacked, or is it a thing of, that's where we're going to try and go. Hard to tell. Who was doing the carving? That drawing is what drew me into this. Where they're standing by the wall and they're looking at it.
Yeah.
Because that was in our history books too, just like Gail was talking about. That would have been a tall person to carve something up that tall. So it would have had to have been one of the men, maybe a soldier, maybe not a soldier, who knows. But if they were actually fighting somebody at the time, he wouldn't have had time to be carving that much into the tree.
Yeah, and especially not so perfectly or whatever. And then like the CRO, that was so in depth, so large. The CRO is so big. I mean, it's not finished, but like
I feel like that is definitely a reenactment.
Yeah, I don't think that's the real tree. Because I saw something about this that they don't know where the real tree was, because they like I say, mapping was so bad then. We just had the stories. Yeah, but yeah, if they just carved in crow, and then like Cale said, we're wiped away by in a storm. We're going to right. Yeah. Dave might have had the carvings were from a graffiti artist tagging his work. Yeah. Could be.
I don't know. It's an interesting story. I feel bad that there's this is a history lesson that has like very little to go on. Our brains are just making up stories for these people now.
Yeah. Well, that's all we can do is, have theories about it and test those theories out somehow. And, like I say, the DNA testing is going along. So they're trying to follow on that.
I think that's why it's always kind of like stayed in my back pocket, because I was always like, forget every other battle that's been solved and like figured out. I'm like, we know what happened. And I'm just always like, oh, we don't really ever concretely know what happened here. That's kind of interesting. Like, I want to figure out like what, I don't know what I want to follow this, like, and then like I learned about this in 3rd grade, and then it's like 2020 and people are still talking about this. And we're still learning about like little pieces of pottery. And I'm like, okay, this is because I hated history. Absolutely hated it as a kid. Didn't care because, like, first of all, Bunker Hill, not even called Bunker Hill. It's called Kettle Hill. They didn't even want it to be sounded so sissy. They renamed it for just history purposes. So everybody in history just does whatever they want to because they just make it sound fancy. Okay, that's why I hate history, because it's just names and dates. People do what they want. Just write it down on paper, okay? Anyway, so I failed history a lot because I had a terrible memory and I couldn't remember the dates, but I knew what happened. I was like, this guy did this at this time and this time, but I don't remember it was the dates. And so
if history had like paranormal events, like this story in particular, where it's like, did they hit a portal and go to a different timeline, or did aliens come down and take them away?
Oh my gosh, no, but they would quiz me like, when did Abraham Lincoln get elected? And I'd be like, I don't know, 1618 something, I don't know. And I would fail, and I would be like, I'm a failure. But like, I would be like, it doesn't matter because you guys just picked a random date and you changed the name of the hill anyway. So like, you're just going to do what you want.
But make Abraham Lincoln a vampire, everybody suddenly gets interested.
Yeah.
Okay, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, that is a great book. I love that book, and I will always learn about history if it has a supernatural twist.
Oh, you haven't seen the movie. You haven't seen the movie, Kale?
No, they made it into a movie?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. When? I read the book years ago.
It's been a couple years ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I love
But yeah, so
Dave,
this is why
Dave with Bill and Ted took
Yeah.
them for a report.
There you go. Everybody in the phone booth.
exactly.
Another possibility that could have happened, and this is horrible, but
Oh no.
Willow, when we were looking at the map a while ago,
Mhm.
if you look at the part of the coast of North Carolina that's closest to Roanoke,
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
okay, right across there, there's some theory that they went over to the mainland, and maybe they did. Right across from there is a national park, nature preserve for alligators.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Go
Yeah.
back a little bit there. You just had it.
Gators don't leave
That one?
no evidence.
Alligator. Yeah, alligator.
Oh my god, I totally missed that.
Yeah. So, yeah, there was a theory that they went over to the mainland, and I hope not. But that is a possible theory also.
Getting attacked by alligators. Okay, that settles it, folks.
You know, you thought the Native
At
Americans.
least the bones and all. That's why we never found a mass grave.
It's one of my theories. Not a good one, but yeah.
Them swamp dinosaurs have been going since 1587 on the North Carolina shores.
They have found some possible like relics there, pieces of jewelry and things like that.
Really?
Yeah, so that's a possibility as well. Some guy was trying to dig it up, but I don't think he was actually in the alligator park bit. I hope not.
Oh.
No. Did they date the jewelry? Was it like from a period time, or was it like from recent, like people actually killing people now?
No, it was of the time. It was the
Oh,
50s.
wow.
So,
Interesting.
but then again, it could have been, like you were saying, it could have been stolen by the Native Americans and taken over to that part too.
Yeah.
The chain of evidence is pretty bad on this case. And the police have given up on it a long time ago.
So apparently Hen's having issues with buffering, getting to hear about 10 words between episodes of buffering.
Oh no.
We love you, Dan. Thanks
Poor
for
Dan.
trying.
The internet people are coming out to Dan's house tomorrow to look at it. We hope they fix it.
Dave Mattingly with my favorite of the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, Android. Wow, I can't pronounce that word.
Karenina.
Thank you.
Anna Karenina. Karenina. Yeah, Anna Karenina was a famous character or a history person, and that's just a play on the words. So, yeah.
Okay. Dave Mattingly, when I worked at Kennedy Space Center, the astronauts joked that NASA was so concerned about them landing the shuttle on the runway that they built a moat and stocked it with alligators. Yep. I'm not sure what to do with that information, but sure.
Isn't that the classic defense when you would hear about like medieval times? Castles would always be surrounded with moats with alligators, and it would be like, you can't land in the water because, you can't swim across. Alligators will get you anyway. Yeah. Like, alligators are deadly. They'll eat the bones and all, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if there was alligators in England, though.
In England?
Well, they would have been
That's where a lot of the castles were,
though. The moats, you mean. Yeah, yeah. They probably wouldn't have had them there. That they would have frozen. But I can believe the thing about Kennedy Space Center because I saw a show called What on Earth, and they had the satellites look down on a particular piece, and they say, "What is that thing?" And they found a place in the Everglades where they used to test rocket engines. And it was a very top secret place. And one of the guys said that there were a lot of alligators in the canal that they built there to try to test the rockets in. So,
Interesting.
those two things may have conflated together for Dave's story. But yeah, they're you can't go there right now because the alligators are so bad.
Interesting.
So don't go there, people.
I wonder if there's a correlation between alligators and energy sources. Do they feed off of it?
They feed off the people that are stupid enough to go down.
Right?
I mean, that's an energy source of sorts.
Oh, wow.
Dark humor there.
We went from possible aliens, alien abductions to alligator eating.
Well, you know me. I'm a skeptic, Willow, so the alligators are much more probable in my book.
That sounds like a more probable thing for it as
Sadly,
well.
Sadly, yeah.
Yeah.
We would love that scene from Close Encounters where they bring back all the people they've kidnapped, over the years, and they're all still as young as they were the day they were kidnapped, but they didn't have any Roanoke survivors on there.
The correlation between alligators and energy sources is that people use energy sources and alligators eat people. Yep.
Exactly.
Not good. Not good.
I still love Dan's comment. I'm not saying it was aliens, but it wasn't aliens. Yeah, no, this is a very interesting story. Thank you very much for telling me this story. I tried to do as much research as I could, and my brain kept going. Look at Google Maps. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, and they didn't even have the greatest mapping, so who knows where they thought they were going and where they ended up. Those poor people.
I still definitely recommend take the time to watch My Roanoke Nightmare. It has nothing to do with the actual legend. I mean, somewhat. It has a little side story into like a backspin on the legend, and it's kind of like she sacrifices and does demon work and everything like that. But it has Lady Gaga, it has Cuba Gooding Jr., has a lot of great actors and actresses in it, and it's
based
really,
on true stories, but the names events and and situation has changed.
Devil worship, cannibalism, killjacks, anything you could want in a spooky movie. A haunted house, mobs, crazy nurses that kill poor senior citizens.
Oh yeah, I like this. People do eat alligators too. Yes. They do, and
it's the circle of life. If alligators eat people, people eat gators.
Tastes like greasy chicken.
Yes.
I've been to Florida. There
was an Australian restaurant here called Billabong's, and they had grilled alligator, and it tasted like chicken. It was a little salty, but I think that's just how they made it. But yeah, it was. I thought it was good.
I think I had gator on a cruise once, and I don't remember how it was prepared. I think it was like gator hush puppies or fried gator or something like that. But it was good. I remember I liked it.
Yeah,
I would meld very well with the southern states because I'd eat anything, anything that has meat.
Yeah.
I'm a huge foodie, so I'm into trying like all kinds of new stuff.
Alligators lived all around my backyard when I lived in the Cape. That is crazy. Like, see, I can understand having guns for that reason. Mm-hmm. Not when some stranger knocks on your door and is lost.
Yeah.
But imagine living in Florida and having a backyard that goes down to the bay and just like having your yard go out to like, or having your dog go out to like just poop or like, do whatever. And then like a gator coming up from the thing and like trying to get your dog. Like that's a normal everyday life for like Floridians.
We have to remind our neighbors to bring in their cats at night because we have coyotes and and foxes in my neighborhood. And it's just like people are still like, oh, I let my cat out all the time. They come home and it's just like, we have wildlife literally outside our door.
Yeah.
Just because we live in the city doesn't mean that wildlife moved out.
No.
Right.
All right. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you very much for joining us. Carl, please tell us where we can find you on social media.
Ooh, well, I'm on Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel, but nobody watches it because I don't do anything with it. Someday I will finally do my, psychology show on there. But mostly find me on Facebook, and my books are on lulu.com.
Ooh. Kale, where can we find you on social media?
I have a Facebook and I'm on Instagram at Creepy Kale and on YouTube with Cryptic Crunch.
Dave, I love you. Thank you very much for your comments. Don't get lost on your way to Croatia. Well, I don't know what I'm saying. Croatia. Sorry. Wrong place. And Donna, great show. So good to have you guys back. We missed you. We totally miss you. So you guys can find me all over social media as well. Just search my name, Willow Schuyler. Next topic, we will have that discussion in a moment, and we'll let you guys know. Thank you very much.
Spooky. It's October, so we'll get it in the works.
All right, you guys have a great night, and I will fix the whatever's going on with the other channels in a moment. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.
Bye, guys.